A childhood friend that was the most empathetic, kind guy I've ever known did a stint in the Navy, went into computers and played guitar in a band. He married a pretty mean girl that liked the idea of a big wedding and musician husband, but had no interest in a marriage. She was her family's golden child, drop dead gorgeous, and completely narcissistic spoiled. They buy land together. He borrows money and has his family build their house to reduce costs. He was paying them back over time while she spent money and socialized, sometimes working a part-time job. Inside of 2 years, she's bored and starts an affair, or we think never stopped affairs, but gets caught, and while the empathetic guy tries to work things out, she makes false accusations of domestic abuse and files for divorce, with restraining order keeping him out of the home he and his family built with their own hands. Now keep in mind he's still paying his family back for the home, still ordered to pay for the land and most of the upkeep, maintenance. He's back in his childhood bedroom while his wife entertains her men in that house. With some research by the lawyer, the family still technically owned the house. Now my family owned a heavy equipment business, including house structural movers. Look up house movers to verify what I said. When she went on vacation with her family and new boyfriend, we went in, jacked up the house, and drove off with it. Repossessed. The structure wasn't covered in the court order, just the mortgaged land. She had legal claim to the land, her name was on the mortgage, but the structure appeared nowhere on the deed, and there was still money owed on most of the materials and labor, so it was simply reposted. Now the judge wasn't happy at all, but it wasn't illegal to repossess since the land mortgage was the only thing he was court-ordered to pay. She came home to foundation, pipes and wires sticking out of the ground, and a crappy used yard barn with her personal possessions in it. Now it wouldn't be nuclear if it stopped there. Since the main character has recently passed away, I can tell more. We had a guy we called Big Bob, and the name fits. Everyone probably knows someone that defies jail, death, is a walking demolition crew, and in fact we called him Demolition Man for a while after the movie. Apparently, someone put huge special toys smeared with dried whipped cream crust in her possessions, found when her dad and friends came to get the rest of her possessions out of the yard barn. There were also extreme movies and furry magazines, bongs shaped like genitals, etc. Someone used her pictures in the dating magazines pre-internet for a paid company woman with her phone number. Her parents even had to change their phone numbers a few times. Someone got those change of address cards from the post office and sent her mail around the country. Someone knew exactly when the legal separation happened, and she was supposed to get her own car insurance, but she didn't get that letter. Her car burned down in her workplace parking lot a few days after the legal separation happened, and of course, she didn't get the insurance company notification in the mail, so no insurance. Someone had intimate pictures printed, man's face blacked out on flyers. The printing pointed out that wasn't her husband at the time and stuck them under windshield wipers at her family's church, every place she worked, all around her neighborhood. Cops got involved in that, but they couldn't find where the flyers were printed. Big Bob was an over-the-road truck driver. Everything died down when she finally agreed to let our friend buy her out on the land for a reasonable sum, paying for it twice, and dropped the restraining order. Less than a week after he had clear title, the house showed back up right where it was before. Since it was still on the steel used to move it, all we had to do was stick a truck back under it and take it back, hook it up. This was until she decided to marry a guy from a hardworking family that were doing well. She love-bombed the poor, hardworking sap. He never knew what hit him. She had a bachelorette party with her pretty mean girlfriends at a local recreation lake, and rubbed it in her bachelorette party was going to cost more, be better than her wedding to my friend. I think that's what quelled the nuclear revenge. The flyers showed up all over at his bachelor party, at his parents' house with his family, and her bachelorette party got busted for shrugs where they found several people in various stages of undress, including the bride-to-be, and quite a bit of shrugs, bunches of alcohol, etc. When that wedding blew up, the wedding dress from the first marriage to our friend showed up on a scarecrow with a pentagram on the front, what looked like blood, paint, on it in her front yard. No one even missed the wedding dress from the first wedding until then. Every workplace, every time she dated someone seriously, etc., the flyers showed back up. She finally gained about 50-70 pounds and quit trying to date seriously. She looked like her 70-pound overweight mother, but 30 years earlier. She married a fat truck driver eventually. R.I.P. Big Bob, you were one hell of a friend and we are all going to miss you. We will sing the song of your people and raise a glass to you every time we meet. Story 2, drive over a kid's bike, pay the price. Okay, this story took place a very long time ago, in the summer of 1969. I was about 12. I had an early morning paper route in my neighborhood. One of the first things that I bought with my earnings was a brand new 10-speed bike. It was silver with red trim. I was really proud of it, and I took very good care of it. I also used it to deliver my newspapers in the morning. One of my customers was often leaving for work around the time that I got there. I always made a point of parking my bike well off to the side while I went up to deliver his paper. This particular morning, he turned too soon and too sharply while backing out of his driveway, and backed right over my bikes, ruining the front sprocket and derailleur. He stuck his head out the window and asked, "Is it okay?" "Not exactly," I said. "Well, that's what you get for leaving it behind my car." Then he drove off. I walked it home, crushed and upset. I felt helpless against this adult who clearly had no intention of doing anything about it, and I didn't know what to do. My hurt, frustration, and powerlessness gradually turned to anger. I stopped delivering his paper, and when he complained, I told my supervisor that I was delivering, but he just liked to complain. So ultimately, it wasn't held against me. But the real revenge was yet to come. He lived on the main route through the neighborhood that all the kids took to go to the local 7-Eleven and other places. His mailbox sat on a steel fence post, loosely set into the ground. That summer, I got in the habit of pulling it up and throwing it over the fence into the cemetery across the street, maybe once or twice a week. It was fun and mischievous, but it still didn't satisfy my need for revenge. He had 3 large frond shrubs in his front yard that would grow to 6 or 8 feet over the course of the summer and then begin to die back. They were several feet apart with nothing else close by. One August evening, I threw a lit match into one on my way home from the 7-Eleven. I never heard anything else, but on my route the next morning, it was just a burnt husk in his front yard. Over the next couple weeks, I did the same to the other 2. I was beginning to feel a bit satisfied. But one morning, on the way home from delivering papers, I had an inspiration. I saw that the side window of his garage was open. Now, I knew that what I was considering was taking it a bit far, but I was an impulsive kid and I thought tit for tat was fair. Back in the day, everybody carried road flares, aka emergency flares, in their cars. So I climbed through the window, found 2 flares, lit them, and stuck one right under behind each of his rear tires, then climbed out and hightailed it home and went back to bed. I did not go back to see what happened, and I stayed away from the area for several days. I knew that I'd ruined his tires. I never saw the result, but I didn't care, and I never did another thing to him.